when my brother's name flashed across my phone screen. After almost 11 years of silence, I froze for a full minute. I just stared at it, that familiar name, burning like an old scar I'd tried to forget. We hadn't spoken since our parents' funeral, when he told me I was dead to him. His words still echo in my head. "You always take what I send to yours?" Then he stormed off into the rain, leaving me standing there with a handful of ashes and a lifetime of guilt. So yeah, when Ben showed up on my phone that Tuesday morning, I should VE ignored it. But I didn't. Curiosity, or maybe masochism, made me swipe accept. "Hey, Mark," he said. His voice was rough. Lower than I remembered. "It's been a while." "Yeah," I said. "A decade qualifies as a while." He gave this nervous laugh. "Listen, I wouldn't call if it wasn't serious. I really need your help." My stomach dropped. I could already hear the unspoken part. I need money. It was always money with Ben since we were kids. He had this black hole inside. Everything you gave just disappeared. "What kind of help?" I asked flatly. There was a pause. Then he said, "Can we meet in person, please? Just once." Something in his voice sounded desperate. Not manipulative, not angry. Just tired. Against every rational instinct I had, I agreed. We settled on a diner halfway between our towns, one we used to go to with Mom when things were still good. After I hung up, I just sat there staring at the wall, feeling the weight of 10 years pressed down like a wet blanket. I didn't owe Ben anything. Our parents' estate had been settled long ago. Mom's house, the savings, all legally mine. The lawyer had made it clear that sis what she wanted. But that inheritance was radioactive. ID never touched most of it. ID just kept it safe, like Mom asked. Still, guilt has a funny way of whispering in your ear. By the time I left the house to meet him, my hands were shaking not from fear, but from the ugly hope that maybe finally this would be closure. Instead, it turned out to be the beginning of something much worse. I got there early. The diner hadn't changed in 20 years. Same cracked red booths, same humming lights, same smell of burnt coffee and fried eggs. It felt like walking into a memory I never wanted to relive. I picked the booth near the window and ordered a black coffee, just to have something to do with my hands. 10 minutes later, Ben walked in. For a moment, I didn't recognize him. His once sharp face had gone pale thinner. His shoulders slumped. His hairline had retreated, and he looked like someone who'd been through too many sleepless nights and cheap decisions. When his eyes found mine, I saw the same flicker of resentment I remembered from our teenage years, just older, now heavier. "Hey," he said, sliding into the booth across from me. "Hey," I answered. We sat there in silence for a moment, the kind that stretches and chokes. He nodded toward the waitress. "Still drink it black, huh? Still forget to tip?" I shot back before I could stop myself. He smirked, but it didn't reach his eyes. Finally, he exhaled. "I'll just say it. I need help, man. I'm behind on rent. Work dried up. I'm trying." "But money," I interrupted. "You need money." He flinched. "Yeah, just a few thousand to get back on my feet." "I swear I'll pay you back." The same line he'd voiced 100 times before. When we were younger, I lent him everything I could. Money for gas, for repairs, for emergencies. It always vanished. "Why me?" I asked quietly after all this time. "Because you can," he said flatly. "You got everything. The house, the savings, the inheritance. You got Mom's blessing there, it was. The old poison under his words. I could feel my jaw tighten. You know why she left it to me. He laughed bitterly. Yeah, because you're the responsible one. Because I was a disappointment. Right, that ass what she told you? Ben, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Mom left you out because she didn't trust what you do with it. You burned through every chance she ever gave you. His eyes hardened. That is not true, it is. I said, and you know it. He stood up abruptly, shoving his hands into his pockets. Forget it, I shouldn't have come. Ben. But he was already walking out the door. The waitress dropped off my check, giving me that awkward, sympathetic look people give when they overhear too much. I sat there for a while, staring at his untouched coffee cup across from mine. The condensation had formed a ring on the table, 2 circles side by side, not touching. Just like us when I finally left. I caught my reflection in the diner's glass door. For the first time, I wasn't sure if I looked like the brother who'd won, or the one who'd been left behind. God, it's strange how memory works. You think you've buried something deep enough, and then one conversation digs it all back up, like a rotten root you can't unsee. After that meeting with Ben, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying every fight, every lie, every moment that led us here. We used to be close once when Dad was alive. We were inseparable, building forts in the backyard, riding bikes until dark. But things changed fast after Dad's accident. Mom worked double shifts to keep us afloat, and I started helping her with bills while Ben drifted. He dropped out of community college, bounced between jobs, and started hanging out with people who always smelled like weed and bad decisions. The first real betrayal came when I was 21. I had saved for 3 years to open a small auto shop, my dream since I was a kid. Mom had even co-signed the lease. A week before I was set to sign the final papers, the money was gone, my savings account was wiped. Every dollar I'd earned working weekends and holidays had vanished. It didn't take long to find out who did it. Ben had stolen my banking info and borrowed the money to pay off a gambling debt. He promised he'd fix it, that it was temporary, that he was saving us from some dangerous people. But there was no fixing it. The shop deal fell through. Mom was devastated, not just because of the money, but because she believed in him when no one else did. She begged me not to press charges. He is your brother, she said, crying. He has lost. Don't make it worse. So I didn't. I worked 2 more years to rebuild what he destroyed. Ben disappeared for most of that time, occasionally showing up to borrow more money or to tell us about the next big opportunity. None of them worked out. When Mom got sick, I was the one at her appointments. I was the one who stayed up at night, watching her breathe. Ben came by twice, once to ask about her life insurance, and once to say goodbye. The second time he was drunk. After she died, her lawyer handed me the will. Everything, the house, her savings, her car, was in my name. There was also a sealed letter. I didn't open it for years, not until tonight. The ink had faded, but the words cut like glass. Mark, you've carried more than your share. I know what Ben did, and I can't trust him with what is left. Take care of yourself, and if he ever truly changes, help him, but only then. I read it 3 times. I spent years wondering if I was being selfish, keeping what she left. Turns out I was just doing what she asked me to do. Still, even knowing that, Guilt sat heavy in my chest. Because when I looked in the mirror, I could still see the boy who once believed his brother would never hurt him. And that boy was long gone. 2 weeks after that diner meeting, I thought the storm had passed. I was wrong. It started with texts. At first harmless, "Hey, hope you're well, or I just want to talk." But then they got darker. "You don't know how hard this is. Mom would wanted me to have my share." I ignored them. I blocked numbers. I even changed my voicemail. But Ben has always been persistent. The kind of person who knows just how far he can push before someone cracks. Then came the call. "Mark," he said, voice low and sharp, "I need you to listen." "Not now," I said. "I'm working." "You think ignoring me makes this go away? You know it. 1T Mom's money is mine too, and you can't hide it forever." I froze. My stomach twisted. He sounded like he'd planned this. Like he had been waiting for the right moment to corner me. "What do you want, Ben?" I asked, my voice tighter than I intended. "Help," he said. "Not a handout. Just a chance to prove I can do right by Mom. As memory. You owe me." That word "owe" hit like a hammer. I wanted to scream to tell him what ID endured. All the years ID spent patching the damage he caused. But something stopped me. He wasn't just asking. He was demanding. Threatening. "I don't owe you anything," I said finally. "Oh, you do," he snapped. "You always did. You got the house, the money, the life Mom built, and what did I get? Nothing. Nothing but your smug smile." It was more than resentment. It was entitlement combined with a deep, familiar cruelty that had haunted me since childhood. I hung up, heart pounding. But the dread didn't leave. I knew this wasn't just about money. It was about control, about rewriting the past so he could feel justified. Later that night, I went to the old family home, now mine, and sat in Mom's living room. The silence was suffocating. Every corner seemed to whisper, "He'll be back, and he would. Because Ben doesn't quit." And I realized something terrifying. Even after all these years, he could still ruin me, not with violence, not with theft, but with the weight of guilt and memory. The things I couldn't forget. I should be known it was coming with Ben. Escalation is the rule, not the exception. It started small. I'd come home and noticed little things out of place. A drawer slightly ajar, papers shifted on my desk. At first I blamed myself. Maybe I'd left it that way. But then one night the security company called. Motion sensors in the house had detected movement. Someone had been inside. The first thought that hit me was Ben. Of course, it was him. No one else had the combination to the locks or the knowledge of the house the way he did. I called the police, but he was long gone by the time they arrived. A week later, I found out he'd tried to pawn Mom's jewelry at a nearby shop. He'd left fingerprints. The pawn shop called the police, and there it was. My brother caught red-handed. But he had this audacity, this way of twisting the world to make himself the victim. When I visited him in the holding cell, he looked at me like I was the bad guy. "It was yours anyway," he said. "You always had everything. I was just taking back what is mine." I wanted to scream. I wanted to knock him out, to make him understand that stealing, lying, threatening, none of it justified anything. But he was my brother. That word alone made me hesitate. After that, I upgraded security cameras. New locks, motion sensors. even an alarm system connected directly to the police. I didn't want to live in fear, but I realized something crucial. Fear wasn't just for me. It was for everyone who cared about Mom's legacy. The house, the savings, the life she built. But even with all these precautions, every knock at the door made my chest tighten. Every shadow at the window made my stomach twist. Ben had become a ghost in my life, a shadow that could appear anywhere at any time, reminding me that trust once broken can never fully heal. That night, I sat in the living room and stared at Mom's old rocking chair, the one she loved. I thought about the years I spent trying to make Ben into someone he wasn't, and I realized maybe I'd been wasting my life trying to fix him. Maybe it was time to accept that protecting what she left me wasn't cruelty. It was survival. I thought keeping Ben out of my life and securing the house would be enough. I was wrong. It started with posts on social media. He tagged me in them pictures of Mom with captions like, "My sister inherited everything while I struggled." AITA for asking for what is rightfully mine. He made videos, recorded rants, posted them on Reddit, everywhere people would see. And of course they went viral. In our small circle, messages from old friends, distant cousins, even strangers started pouring in. "Why won't you help him? You're so selfish. He is your brother. He deserves a chance." The guilt, the subtle pressure. It gnawed at me more than anything he'd done physically. I debated responding. I wanted to tell the world everything. The theft, the lies, the nights I spent patching, the damage he caused. But Ben had already spun the story. To anyone who didn't know the truth, I was the villain. One evening I got a DM from a childhood friend, Mark. "Are you really just letting him suffer? After everything, can't you do something?" I stared at the message for a long time. Could I justify ignoring him, or would helping him mean surrendering everything Mom built the next morning? I walked into my office, the weight of decisions pressing down on me. I remembered every broken promise, every stolen cent, every moment he'd ruined my trust. And yet, I also remembered the boy who once shared my room, who once begged me to teach him algebra, and who cried when Dad got sick. I realized that this was the ultimate test. Not money, not inheritance, not even anger. This was about morality, about whether I could separate justice from family loyalty. Later, I checked Reddit. A post had thousands of comments now, some condemning me, others defending me. The world was weighing in on my life. But Ben didn't care about truth. He cared about perception, about bending reality so he could look like the victim. That night I stared at Mom's photo on my desk. Protect what I built, her words echoed. I knew she wouldn't have wanted me to bend, to give in to manipulation. But it was hard. God, it was so hard. I woke up to the sound of glass shattering. At first, I thought I was dreaming. But then I saw it, a dark silhouette moving past the living room window. Ben. My heart skipped a beat, then sank. I grabbed my phone and called 911, whispering into the receiver, "There is a man in my house. It's my brother." By the time I got to the living room, he had opened one of the kitchen drawers. My old savings bonds, some family jewelry, Mom's silverware. He didn't even look startled. When I stepped into the doorway, "Mark," he said casually, "I just need some cash. Don't make this hard." I froze. Years of anger, resentment, and fear collided into a single icy clarity. No more hesitation. This wasn't just about money anymore. This was about survival, my life, my sanity, everything. "Mom left me." "Ben," I said. voice steady but cold. "Get out now," he laughed. A sharp, bitter sound. "You can't just keep me out forever. You're selfish, Mark. Mom wanted me to have a share." "No," I said, stepping closer, the adrenaline making me feel bigger, stronger than I'd ever felt. "Mom wanted me to protect it, and I will." The police arrived minutes later. Ben, didn't he resist? Not because he was scared, but because he knew the damage was done. He decrossed the line one too many times. As I watched him being led away in handcuffs, I felt a mix of relief and sorrow. Relieved that my home and my life were safe. Sorrow for the brother I thought I knew. The boy who used to ride bikes with me in the park, who used to beg me to help him with homework. That night, I sat in Mom's favorite chair and stared at the empty room. I realized something: boundaries aren't just rules. They're shields. And I finally built mine. I didn't celebrate. I didn't feel victorious. Just tired. Tired of carrying his mistakes. Tired of cleaning up his mess. Tired of pretending that protecting myself made me cruel. But I also knew that if I hadn't acted, I would have lost more than money. I would have lost myself. The day after Ben was arrested, my inbox exploded. Emails, texts, even social media notifications. How could you do that to your brother? You ruined his life. AITA for being the responsible sibling. I stared at my phone. No. 10 years of guilt, 10 years of restraint. And suddenly the world was judging me for protecting myself. Friends called. Some were sympathetic. "Mark, you did what you had to," said my childhood friend Jenna. But others were harsher. "Family should help family. He is your brother." Didn't he know what he'd done? Didn't he see the theft, the manipulations, the threats? I tried to explain. One posted a few clarifying comments on Reddit, outlining what really happened: the theft of my savings, the attempted break-in, the manipulations. But people wanted drama, not nuance. Ben had already spun the story better than I could defend it. To the public, I was the villain. A greedy sibling hoarding an inheritance while my poor, struggling brother suffered. And yet, I felt no regret for acting. I realized protecting what Mom left me wasn't just about money. It was about my life, my peace, my sanity. Helping Ben would have meant sacrificing all of that. I walked through the empty house that night. The silence was heavy, but safe. I remembered Mom's words from her letter. Protect what I built. Was I cruel, maybe? Was I heartless, perhaps, in someone else's eyes? But I knew the truth. I had done everything I could to give him a chance. He had refused it, choosing instead to threaten, steal, and manipulate. I realized then that morality isn't always about kindness. Sometimes it's about survival. Sometimes the right choice feels wrong because the world judges it. And as I locked the door that night, I knew I had finally drawn the line for good. That months passed, but the chaos didn't fully leave me. Even though Ben was behind bars, his shadow lingered. Every unexpected phone call, every social media alert made my chest tighten. Friends, family, acquaintances, they all had opinions about what I should have done, how I should have acted. I went back to work, tried to rebuild my routine, but the guilt was stubborn. Nights were the worst. I would lie awake thinking about Mom, about Ben, about the moments I wished I could undo, giving him chances, trusting him, hoping he'd change. But hope had been a dangerous thing, and he had exploited it every time. I started therapy. For the first time, I spoke freely about the thefts, The manipulation, the broken trust. And slowly I realized something I hadn't. He just protected Mom's estate. I had protected myself. I had drawn a line that couldn't be crossed again. Then came the Reddit posts, the debates, the public opinion swirling endlessly. He is your brother, help him. You're heartless. AITA. AI didn't he reply anymore. The judgment of strangers didn't he matter. What mattered was that I survived. I also started reflecting on forgiveness. Could I forgive Ben? Wasn't he sure? The man who had stolen, manipulated, and threatened the very foundation of my life was still my brother, biologically. But forgiveness didn't mean allowing him to continue hurting me. It was about releasing myself from the anger that had consumed me for so long. One night I walked through the empty house, now quiet and secure. Mom's old rocking chair sat in the corner, a symbol of what had been, what was lost, and what I had preserved. For the first time I allowed myself to breathe. I realized life isn't fair. People aren't always who you want them to be. And sometimes doing the right thing means doing what protects your own life and sanity, even if the world calls you a villain. I wasn't a villain. I was a survivor, and finally. That felt enough. It was quiet that morning, the kind of silence that felt sacred. The house, the inheritance, even the memories that haunted the walls, all of it belonged to me, untouched by Ben's chaos. And for the first time in years, I felt a strange kind of peace. I had visited him in prison one last time, not out of hope for reconciliation, but to see the man who had once been my brother and understand that he was gone. The boy I remembered, the one who played in the backyard, begged for help with homework, laughed at silly jokes, had been buried under years of anger, poor choices, and entitlement. I forgive you, I told him, quietly during that visit. Not because I trusted him, not because I condoned what he did, but because holding on to the anger would have destroyed me. He looked at me with something that could have been surprise or confusion, or maybe even a hint of relief. After that, I walked out, leaving the past behind. No dramatic speeches, no final fights. Just a closing of a door that had been left open too long. The public opinion, the social media debates, the endless Reddit comments, they didn't matter anymore. Some people would always call me selfish, heartless, cruel. Others would see the reality. Protecting yourself isn't always popular, but sometimes it's the only way to survive. I kept Mom's letter framed on my desk. Protect what I built. I had honored her wishes not out of greed, but out of love for her memory and the life she worked so hard to create. I realized something else. Life isn't about fairness. It's about choices. The right choice isn't always easy, and the wrong choice doesn't always come from malice. Sometimes it comes from survival, from the need to protect what matters most. I closed the chapter on Ben, on the betrayal, on the guilt. I could finally breathe again, knowing I had done everything I could. And that some things, no matter how much we wish otherwise, cannot be fixed. In the end, the story wasn't about me being a villain or a hero. It was about being human, about knowing when to fight, when to forgive, and when to walk away. And that was enough.